Hi everyone, we're just going to wait for Dinesh to join back. We'll just have a quick check on the connectivity. I think there's just been a small issue.
Okay, hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me now? Much better?
Yes, much better. All right.
Okay.
So, yes, we had asked you about your insight and how you've been training during the lockdown and how you've kept yourself fit.
Yeah, so, initially I used to have the similar routine where I used to wake up. Overnight I used to watch some movie or the other. I used to have about 20 minutes left over, so I used to finish that. And then probably, if it was a running session, I'd do it in the morning because, I like running sessions are mostly tough for me. So I try and get it out of the way so that I can have something easier to do in the evening. If it is a gym session, then I used to, do it in the evening, around 4:35. And I was lucky. I had a small gym in my building, which was, and we have a building which only has 8 people, out of which four are not there. So only four of us. So it was pretty good. It was easy. So I was lucky enough, one of those lucky few who could, have access to gym equipments and a small gym, but it was good enough for the time being.
Great. And have you been lucky to get back to your net session yet or not yet?
you know, I must admit I did go for a couple of days because, in Chennai, the situation is not great, but they kind of eased it out. So we went for a couple of days. Then a lot of the guys who came with me, their parents said enough, it's a little risky. And I also felt that, it's okay. We don't need to take the risk. And I have a feeling I'm hearing that there could be another massive lockdown in Chennai, just in Chennai, not all over Tamil Nadu, just in Chennai, because the cases are just getting a little too much to handle for them. So, I think it could be some another couple of weeks maybe.
Right. And do you think it was a good break for you, or you made the most of this break in terms of your fitness?
Yes, I think it was a good break. Considering I thought for the first 3 weeks it'll be cool, everything would be okay. So it was great for the first 3 weeks. 4 weeks went, 5 weeks went. Then now I kind of get the feeling like, what am I looking forward to? There's not much on the horizon right now. Nobody is sure about anything. At least when it comes to sport, when it's going to start. When can we do something? I've always been somebody who has if I have something in the, if I have some tournament to look forward to, then I train accordingly what I should be doing. Right now, I don't know what's next. Is it a T20 tournament? It is the domestic cricket. So I'm a little
Right.
confused, but I'm just trying to, have the general upkeep of my body as good as possible. I don't want to just put on weight and, just struggle later to lose all the weight. So I'm just trying to stay fit and balanced.
So maintaining is what you're looking at mainly throughout this time.
Yes,
Maintaining
maintaining.
up
Then,
the
maintaining, and also through the years you tend to pick up a few niggles. Like one of the issues that I've had is a lot of times I wake up with a stiff back, so that's something that I'm trying to work on, to make sure my back gets a little stronger so that I don't get that stiffness when I wake up in the morning. So that's something that I'm working on.
Right. And I think it's so important because a lot of us suffer with back injuries quite often. Athletes do. And it's important to look after your back, right? Because it helps you keep the core fit and then, just make sure you avoid other injuries. So what is
Uh,
your look in, I mean, do you think cricket is going to go back to what it was in the next few months or it's going to be different?
um, it's going to be a lot different, First of all, if there is IPL, and if there's IPL, obviously there's going to be no crowd straight away. That's a complete change to what we are used to, especially while playing the tournament. So that's a massive change. And then the way we practice, if you have to put everything into motion in terms of social distancing, sanitizing, it's going to be a completely different situation to what it was, before the pandemic. So obviously, taking everything into consideration, only when we step into that place where we are doing and following the things that have been told to us, will we exactly know how much it has changed. But I'm pretty sure it'll change a bit.
And do you have a plan for the future in terms of, say, right now you had access to the gym and you were doing your running sessions, but have you planned out with your trainer or anything how you're going to be training for the next few months till we know what's going to happen?
Yes, definitely. I think what he's told me is we'll work on a little bit of strength, but because we don't have access to the ground, let's try and consciously work a lot more on running. Let's run a lot more because he feels that because if I just chill at home and don't do the right thing sitting at home, my cardio could get affected very easily, and it's very easy compared to strength. Cardio is a lot harder to get back in the system. So he was saying that we'll work a lot more on running and making sure we are our physical endurance is pretty good.
Right. And a very important question, because I have never asked you this, even though I've worked with you, is how did you come across cricket? Like, why did you pick cricket as a sport and a career?
When I was young, I started, when I was about 6, 7 years old, I watched the World Cup. I think it was 90, 92. That was when I started watching the World Cup, and I really liked Sachin Tendulkar, and I enjoyed watching him play, and that's how I started liking it. And when I came about 12 years, the '96 World Cup came, and I don't know if you know about Jadeja scored this massive. Ajay Jadeja, there was a player who did fabulously well in one
No,
game
no,
against
I
Pakistan.
absolutely know Ajay Jadeja, and I've watched him play. He was one of my favorite cricketers as well. So,
Yeah, so he plays this unbelievable innings against Pakistan in the '96 World Cup, and it just stays in my memory, and obviously those kind of things just pull me into the game. So that's when the love for the game started. On top of that, my dad was also very very passionate about the sport. He was somebody who tried hard but was a failure, so he wanted me to do as well as I can. So I just enjoyed playing the sport, so he just allowed me to play it.
and where did your career start, or where did you start training when you were a child? Were you in Chennai or elsewhere?
Yeah. So, for when I was about 9 years old, 10 years old, I moved to Kuwait because my dad used to work there. So then I studied my fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth in Kuwait. So, I used to go and practice in Kuwait and play in Kuwait. And then, there used to be India, Pakistan, Bangladesh within Kuwait, all the immigrants who used to come there. We used to have tournaments amongst us. And then a few people, told my dad that, look, he's playing well. I think, you should go and give him a chance in India. Maybe, he can do something good because he's very good here. We don't know how good he is, but I'm sure he's better than most people playing here. So why don't you go and, give him an opportunity to play in India? So I kind of came back when I was eighth standard and, came back to Chennai and started playing, and then the rest is history, I guess.
Okay, and then ever since then, you have constantly been competing, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think pretty much the whole time, post my school and college, I've been playing cricket throughout, even through my school and college and everything. So yeah, pretty much competing in the last 20, 25 years now.
Because that's a very important thing. I think as Indian parents, very often, kids tend to drop out of the sport coming 10th grade, 12th grade, or choosing the academic route. And it's so important for people to know that you did your schooling in college, but also pursued playing sport professionally with that. It could be in different forms, but the thing is that a lot of times people give up the sport by 16, 17 because they have to choose otherwise. So, I mean, it's a great example to have, saying that you can pursue both the things. And one of the things that I learned from you, because I know my first experience with you in person. So I worked with you online, and then when I met you in person, straight at the IPL preseason camp, and you were so particular and you wanted to make sure I was getting your portion sizes right and all. What has been your experience with how nutrition and sports science has helped you during this career phase and working with us?
I think it's been really good in the sense that one of the things that I did learn a lot during the time that I spent with you is the portion sizing. I think I was somebody who used to be aware of what a protein is, what a carbohydrate is, but how much of that do you need to put into your body was something that I was not too aware of. So that's something that I learned there, and it makes a difference. I think you tend to follow that, and you can see the effects it has on the body. And most importantly, everybody trains hard, but obviously, my trainer is a big. He keeps talking a lot about this. The fact that diet plays a bigger role than training. Especially you want to lose weight, you want to get stronger. The most important thing is your diet, because that's what you do the rest of the 22 hours, or okay, if you take sleep out of the equation, about 12 hours of the day you can eat, you can do stuff. So that's when you need to be very careful. That's a massive part of your lifestyle, and that's what people need to realize. As much as you train, I think what you put into your body is far more important.
And how is your journey as KKR captain been so far?
Oh, it's been fabulous. I think it's probably one of the best things that's happened to me as a cricketer, because it's probably one of the best franchises in the IPL, and just to be a part of it, having great owners and a brilliant set of support staff, and you've been part of the team. You know how the team is, the general camaraderie. So it's great, and it's warm. The feeling to be around the guys is very warm. I enjoy it. So it's a responsibility which has a lot of pressure, but I genuinely enjoy it, and it's been good till now.
Right, and going ahead as well. I mean, one thing is that you've been a KKR captain, but what's been your experience during the World Cup as well? Please share some of that with us, because I don't know what goes on behind, right? We get to see you when you're in your calm state, but once the matches start and everything else starts, what is it that you think is very important in your experience during the World Cup?
Oh, I think, our World Cup campaign in 2019 was fabulous. We kind of dominated the tournament up to the semifinals, and the semifinals was a very different game to what it is normally. We played it over 2 days, and there was a lot of things that went, completely different to what we are used to. But I must admit, the journey going to the World Cup, the tournaments that we played preceding that was fabulous. Just the whole tempo of the tournament. It's pretty high pressure tournament. You go out there, people are talking to you. If you walk for a meal, you go out somewhere, people are, the fans come up and they're like, jeetna hi chahiye and all of that. So it's pretty fabulous. India is a country which obviously loves their sport, and mostly cricket is something that, they literally, like people say, it's literally like a religion. So, we're lucky to have Indians in a lot of places in the world, and especially in the cricket nations. I mean, cricket playing nations, everywhere is filled with Indians. A lot of times, even if you play in England, I know that a lot of the England team feels like they're playing an away game, playing in England as well. That's the amount of supporters that turn up to watch us play. So, we enjoy playing for them. At the end of the day, we all want to make people happy, the Indians happy playing the sport, and you can see the passion and the love and affection that they show to us through the tournament. And when we're doing well, obviously nobody likes to lose, but in the end, we had one bad day and that cost us the tournament. But that's the beauty of a multinational tournament. You could have one day and it just all goes away.
And because, like you mentioned, cricket is such a big religion in India, everybody follows cricket and we're so passionate about it and we're one of the best teams in the world. How do you deal with pressure? Kids nowadays, when I work with a lot of these young athletes, I mean, even at the basic tournaments that they play, district, state, nationals, the kind of pressure sometimes gets to them and you're playing at such a big level. So how do you deal with the pressure even when you are captaining a big team, or for that matter, when you played the World Cup and you have such a big crowd behind you? How do you deal with that kind of pressure?
I think the first thing is awareness. I think you got to realize that if you're moving forward in life, if you're going up the ladder, there is one thing that's always going to keep coming with you, and that is pressure. They say diamonds are made under pressure. So, the higher the pressure, the better the output, the better the result. So, the more you embrace pressure, realize that it is okay. If you don't have pressure, a lot of times you realize as you go up, if you don't have pressure, you can never perform to your optimum level because there is no one pushing you to, push your limits and get that much better. So pressure is a beautiful thing. I think there is no need to be afraid of pressure. What you need to have is awareness, saying that pressure is something that's always going to be part of you in whichever career you choose. It's always going to be there. You need to just embrace it and be aware of the fact that it's going to be there. What you need to do is the ability to stay in the moment as much as possible under pressure is what will help you deliver consistently.
And you've closed a lot of matches for India with some big hits right at the end, when pressure like right up there. I know, like you have moments that you remember. That's one of the moments I remember of you. And it's a lot of pressure, like you said. What about the noise and the crowd? Because I think from any other sport that's played in India, the crowds that come in for cricket is humongous. So how do you cut out that noise?
Look, I think I'm sure you're also aware of it. I think you're playing it really, really diplomatic. But you know that when you get into match mode, a lot of times, irrespective of what the crowd is, you're not going to be listening to them. You have a task in hand that is to, if for me as a batsman, it is to make sure that I get the best against the bowler who's bowling to me. And you tend to forget, forget the crowd, the atmosphere and all that. If sometimes you do feel it, it's in between balls. When you want to take a break, when you want to, absorb what's happening, when you realize, the beauty of playing to a packed house. So that's when that happens in between balls. I think in tennis it happens in between points. I'm assuming. In cricket it happens in between balls. So we just take a moment, have a look at it. But again, once the bowler is at the top of his run up when he starts, I think we switch back
You're
on.
Regrouping again, aren't you? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think we do the same, of course. Like you said, in tennis, I think one of the things my coach taught me was to towel in, right? So you'll see a lot of players have their towels on their head in between games also when they're sitting down, because you don't want to be distracted and looking around in the crowd. You're just thinking of, you're soaking in what's happened, but also trying to get clean slate before you move into the next game, right? Because say you've hit one bad shot and you don't want it to play on your mind for the next few, because then you're definitely going to goof up. At least for you, it's one shot. Literally one shot matters. Here I have like a 3-hour match, which I can keep grueling out even after I'm a match point down. So yeah, I think, but for younger athletes, obviously, because they're so new to it, I think the crowd also overwhelms them. So when we're looking at people getting back to sport now with no crowd or the crowd's changing, I'm definite to think the dynamics of the game is going to change. Sometimes the crowd can also, does the crowd sometimes get you going also, like the adrenaline pumping?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think that's where the crowd comes in, isn't it? I think, when you're, I'm just talking a little technical, when you're playing somebody who's bowling really well, the crowd is the one that, really eggs you on.
Yeah.
Crowd is part of pressure. I think, again, it's something that you need to embrace and be very aware. You can use it to your advantage, you can use it to your disadvantage. If you get a little scared and you're like, oh my God, so many people are watching, then you're never going to be there at your best.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're like, okay, everybody's watching, let me go and express myself, that puts you in a different frame of mind altogether. So, it's about how you look at it and how you're going to make the best use of what is available to you.
And do you have a match preparation routine? Because that's something a lot of psychologists, sports scientists talk about, right? Having a routine, training wise and also match wise, because it kind of helps you zone. So, do you have a match routine that you follow?
Yeah, I think over a period of time, I played the sport for so long. Inadvertently, I tend to do things consistently. Before a game, before a match, before I go to bed. It happens a lot subconsciously. I don't need to put an effort to do these kind of things. I have a general set of routines. This is what I'm going to do leading up to a game. My practice session would probably be like this. When I once I pad up, I'm going to be doing this, and once I get in, I'm going to be doing this. So I try and obviously zone in and try and get in the zone, as they would say. So these are things that I do a lot subconsciously, and it does happen in the lead up to a game, in the lead up to me batting.
Right. And your top three moments in your career so far? I mean, you've had some amazing ones, but what would be your top three? And it can be from the time you started till now.
I think, obviously, making my debut for the country, I think that would be a massive moment for me. Um, Winning the World Cup was something that was very special in 2007. Obviously, becoming the captain of KKR was something that I really enjoyed. I think these are three moments that, are really, I've really enjoyed and been something that it's been something I'm really proud of.
Right. And now coming to, I think a lot of your fans already know, and just for the viewers to know that you married Deepika Palikal, who's India's top-notch squash player. She's been amazing all these years. And having married somebody who also plays sport, how is it at home? How do you all manage your schedules? How do you manage your personal and professional life?
Um, Obviously, once we come into the house, it's more like a normal husband and wife sort of equation. There is no sport per se in it. But, sometimes I've said this in a couple of places. During lockdown, sometimes I did get my motivation was slightly down. I was like, what am I doing? I mean, what am I doing this for rather? I don't see any cricket being played probably till September, October. Like, what am I training so hard in the month of April for? So then, then I see somebody who right next to me who has a similar situation where she has no squash, but she's waking up, going to the gym and working out for an hour, hour and a half. And I'm like, okay, I felt a little guilty. So, I had to go and push myself as well. So, that's how a sportsman helps it happens in my house. So, that's where Deepika has helped me as well.
Right. And does it happen that you all haven't seen each other for a long time in between when you all are traveling for tournaments? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I think we've been maximum a month away without seeing each other. Otherwise, we try either more often than not, she flies in to see where I am. But we try and make it a point to at least see each other once every 35 days for sure.
Do you all ever compete? Do you all ever compete
Yeah,
with
when we
each
play
other?
other sports like tennis and those kind of things, when we play, she's very competitive. I'm okay, but she is she plays an individual sport. I think you got to be really competitive to play individual sport. I'm far more chilled out.
My husband's sitting at the other end and he's going this to me because he's an international badminton player. And every time, and we are two racket sport. So there we
Okay.
are sitting and fighting, and because he's an individual sport as well. We tend to be, and he's just doing that because he just thinks women are just a lot more competitive than men. Because he's doing that to me because I'm the one who keeps pushing. So,
No, it is
I
very true.
mean,
I mean, I've seen it in close quarters. She's actually a bit of a sore loser. She gets very upset when she loses. I'm far more relaxed, but she gets very upset. She gets very worked up. She hates losing. She hates losing. I think because playing a team sport, you understand the dynamics of winning and losing in many ways very differently. Because you could have had a great day, but your team would still lose. Whereas in individual sport, it will never work that way. You can play, if you play well, you're going to win. If you don't play well, you're going to lose. It's all upon yourself. Whereas in
Yeah.
team sport, you realize that, you can have a great day, and the vice versa as well. You could have a really bad day where, you've not done much, but the team would still win. And that would give you a lot of happiness. So, you tend to equate with wins and losses very differently when you play a team sport.
So it's good to know that I'm not the only one who does that at home, and there are more people who do that. Coming to our main section, because I think all the kids and viewers who are waiting to hear from you, is your fitness tips, first of all. So, if you think there are three important fitness tips you'd like to give the younger athletes or young cricketers, aspiring cricketers.
I think, when you say a tip, I think it's got to be, it needs to be basically relative to the person and the skill that they're doing. Like, instead of giving three tips, I'll give three tips to one tip each to each skill set. Like, if you're a batsman, I think one of the things that you need to really be good at is, a lot of lunging, because, as a batsman, you tend to do a lot of that. If you're going to play, I think that's something that you need to be really, your lower body needs to be really strong. If you're a wicket keeper, skill two, I think one of the things that you need to be really good at is agility, because you're moving side to side constantly. You're sitting down and getting up, you're squatting pretty much every ball about 500 times a day. So that is something that you need to be really working on if you're a wicket keeper. Fast bowler, completely different skill. You need to work on your speed, endurance, and and explosive power as well. So if you have to split each skill differently, I think that's how I would look at it.
And any important thing, so I have this thing that I learned from my coach that, nothing's impossible, right? So he made me believe that throughout. And he said that every time you fall down, the best part about sport is you can keep dreaming. So you fall down, dust yourself, get up, and you start all over again. Is there something particular from your career or from a coach or from a trainer or anybody who's worked with you, you remember which always stuck by you?
I think perspective. I think a lot of times what I have learned over a period of time is I've been somebody who's been really hard on myself a lot of times. So perspective is something that I've always looked at. I think you need to be very grateful a lot of times when playing the sport. You need to understand how lucky you are, and playing the sport easily. There are so many things that could happen in everyday life which could completely stop you from playing the sport. I've heard stories where people start playing, they just have an accident, they can't play ever again. So you look at people like that and you realize that you're privileged to play a sport. So never take anything in sport for granted. I think if you need to work hard, you need to push yourself as much as you can every day to get better at whatever you do. I think that is something that is very important for every sportsman out there. The privilege to play sport should never be taken for granted. I think you should always respect the sport and make sure you give it everything you have, so that when you hang up your boots one day, I think you should be very satisfied with the effort you've put in, more than the results.
And any last messages for our viewers?
First of all, thank you so much for having me and for being part of the show and listening to whatever I've had to say. You've been a lovely host as well. Thank you so much, Krushmi.
Thank you. Thank you.
During these tough times, I just want to say that from a safety perspective, at least, I think it's very important to follow whatever is told to us by the government. Interestingly, where you are, the state that you are in and the state that I am in is the most affected at number one and number two places actually. So I think being in a state like this, what worries me a lot is the safety of my parents. So because they're slightly old, obviously we need to be that much more extra careful of where they are, how they shouldn't go out. People around them should be very careful. So similarly, whatever that you're following in terms of the guidelines given by the government is not so much for you, but for the people around you, the old people around you. So I think it's important that, that the way we give back to the society, and the least that we could do at this point of time is to make sure we follow all the safety precautions and make sure everybody's safe around us. And these are tough times, but I'm sure we'll all get through.
Thank you. Thank you once again for taking time out. I'm looking forward to, I was just hoping that I get to see all of you again this year as well, back at the IPL and do some work again. Thank you once again for giving us your time. It's been a privilege chatting with you as usual. And I hope you're following all your nutrition tips that I've told you about, and you're still following your nutrition plan.
Absolutely. Very much. I mean, it goes without saying that.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot. Have a good evening. Thank you, viewers. Thanks.
Thanks.